Hi everyone, my name is James, and in today's video we're going to be doing an analysis and reaction to a student taking part 1 of the IELTS speaking test. Now, before we go any further, let's just watch a little clip of what is to come. So here we go.
Okay, who do you get on best within your family?
Talking about in-best relationship, I'm really close to my mom. We are like friends, and I can share whatever I want with her.
So in that clip there, we saw the interview situation. They were talking about the topic of family, which is one of the topics that comes up quite often in this part of the test. So before we go on to the full analysis, we're just going to do a little kind of introduction to part 1 of the test. Then we'll go on to the analysis and look at some of the positives and negatives, and then break down the score and give my overall thoughts on the student's performance. So in speaking part 1, you will have an interview for around 4 minutes. At the beginning of this, the examiner is going to introduce themselves and then ask you to introduce yourself. You'll then be asked to provide some photographic ID, and then we'll go on to the main part of the test. So this part at the beginning is quite important. A lot of you will be feeling nervous at this part, and at least there's a nice easy question to start with. What is your full name? Can I see your ID? Once you've handed over the ID, then the exam can begin. So what's going to happen in part 1 is the examiner will be asking you questions about everyday life. Usually there will be 2 topics here that they're going to talk about. The subject matter here is a little bit lighter than you would expect in parts 2 and part 3. They could be on more technical subjects. Part 1 is all about your everyday activities. In this part, you should always try to give full answers, not just one word or short sentences. Remember, in the speaking test, you're trying to show off your ability. You want to try to speak as much as you can to show the examiner how good you are. So expanding your answers is very important in this part. The examiner is going to be grading you on a few different things. First of all, how you can communicate your ideas, how fluently and coherently you speak. Now, the fluency is all about continuous speech, not a lot of pauses or hesitations. And the coherence is about how you build your answer. Is it built in a logical way? You'll also be graded on your grammar and vocabulary use as well. And here we're looking for accurate grammar use and the use of maybe a few different grammar tenses. With vocabulary, they're looking at the level of your vocabulary. So higher levels would be using maybe more idioms or phrasal verbs in their work. And finally, they'll be grading you on your ability to speak clearly. They'll be thinking about your pronunciation. And here they're kind of looking at, does your first language interfere with the understanding of your English? Are there any problem words that are pronounced incorrectly? Or do you have problems with certain sounds in English that maybe make it difficult for the listener to understand? So these are the things that we should be paying attention to when we look at today's analysis video. So let's get into the analysis. I'll be pausing the video at the points that I want to talk about. I've got around 8 or 9 kind of analysis features that I want to talk about. So let us get started, and here is the video.
Hello, my name is Nadia, and I will be your examiner today. Could you tell me your full name, please?
Hello, my name is Diksha Mittal.
Okay, so before we start, could I see your identification, please?
Sure. It's
Okay, thank you.
So that's the first part of the test. As I explained at the beginning, the interviewer is going to introduce themselves. They'll then ask you for your name and ask to see your identification. They may also ask you another kind of friendly question. I don't know, something like, how long did it take you to get here today? Did you travel far? How was the weather? Something very, very simple. But the purpose of this part is just to confirm your identity. So that's going to happen at the beginning of every IELTS speaking test. So you should be prepared for this. Have your identification ready. Be prepared for them to introduce themselves and ask for your name. So let's move on.
We are now going to move on to part 1 of the test, which is the interview. I'm going to ask you some questions. Please answer them as fully as you can.
Yeah.
Okay, we are going to talk about family and housework.
So those are going to be the two topics for part 1. They'll probably be split equally, maybe 2 minutes on each topic. So the first part is going to be about family. Next part is going to be about housework. We can see these are two everyday topics.
How many people are there in your immediate family?
in my immediate family. Along with me, there are total 7 people. And it's my father, my mom, my brother, his wife, and their 2 children.
So there we get a good example of how to expand your answer. So the question, how many people are there in your immediate family? So a beginner might answer that question by just saying there are 4 people in my family or 2 people in my family. But here Diksha has expanded her answer by saying there are 7 people in my immediate family and then explaining who those people are. I think here as well we could have expanded a little bit more. Maybe you could say where you live. Where you live. Do you share a room with someone? Whatever it may be, we could have expanded that a little more, but still, that's a great example of how we can expand our answers. So let's move on.
Okay, who do you get on best within your family?
Talking about in-best relationship, I'm really close to my mom. We are like friends, and I can share whatever I want with her.
Would you say you have a large extended family?
I won't say so because we are like 7 people, and in India there are much bigger families that stay together. So,
Okay.
Now, here's our first problem in the exam. And I think this was the only major problem that I noticed in this exam. So did anybody notice something about Diksha's answer there? So the question was, do you have a large extended family? Did you notice what the problem was? Well, it came down to misunderstanding the question. And this is a huge thing. So we already talked about immediate family. So your immediate family is your sometimes called blood family. Mother, father, brothers, sisters. Your extended family are all of the other members of your family. So we should be thinking about uncles, aunts, cousins, nephews, nieces. They are all part of your extended family. So in this case, Diksha's kind of misunderstood the question here. That is going to have an effect on the score, especially for understanding of the vocabulary used in the question. So as I said, that was the only kind of major problem that came up in this test. Let's move on.
What do you do together with your family?
In my leisure time, when I'm not working, we sometimes play together like board games, or we sit and have long chats. We do karaoke in my house, singing together. There are a lot of activities that we do together. Sometimes like even cooking together.
So here is another great example of expanding your answers, showing off your skill. So again, a beginner here might just say, oh, we like to go to the park together. But Diksha here has gone into a lot more detail. She's talked about 3 or 4 different activities that she does together with her family. And this answer ended up being around 20 seconds. And that's a kind of good target to look at for these types of questions. Try to expand and give as many details as you can.
Okay, can you tell me why is family important to you?
I would say in my lowest, in my
Now, here's another kind of small problem. Nothing major here, and I do applaud Diksha for trying to use some idiomatic language. However, she has got the phrase a little bit wrong. She has said, in my lowest. Now, that phrase has an article that is incorrect. So the phrase should be at my lowest. Now, this is not a huge problem. It doesn't affect your understanding of what she is saying, but it does show that she is missing some of the correct vocabulary in that expression. So it's great trying to use more advanced vocabulary at times. If you are, make sure you are using it accurately. Let's move on.
life, my family's moral support was the main thing that kept me going, and that didn't allow me break down in any of my difficult situations. So yeah, my family's support is a big thing for me.
Okay, now we're going to talk about housework. Do you do housework at home?
Yes, I do. Like when we don't have the maid.
What kind of housework do you offer?
Okay, so there's an example of quite a short answer. There was not much expansion there. So, do you do housework? Yes, I do, when we don't have the maid. Well, again, there you're not really giving the examiner an opportunity to hear your voice. So, we want to try and expand that again. A little bit too short there. There's always something we can say extra about whatever the question is. We could talk about how often you do the housework, what kind of housework you do. We could talk about the housework we actually enjoy or don't enjoy. There's always something else that we could add to our answer. So yeah, always look for expansion.
Do?
Like I'm not too much into cooking, so I mainly appreciate doing cleaning and taking care of the kids, that kind of stuff.
Did you do housework when you were a child?
Yeah, I started doing housework like I was interested in cleaning since I was 6 or 7, I think. I used to clean my whole room, my own room, do the bed and everything.
Do you think that children should do housework?
I think the parents should inculcate this habit.
Now here we've got another small problem, and this is confusion and in the word choice that Diksha has chosen here. So she has used the word indicate. I think parents should indicate. I think the word she was meaning to use was encourage. So parents should encourage children to do housework. So there, I think this is something that happens. You're under test situation. Sometimes the brain takes a while to catch up and incorrect words come out. But yeah, again, it became a little bit confusing. Indicate, not the correct word. Encourage would have been much, much better to use there. So let's go on and hear the rest of this.
In a child since like childhood, so that they know how to clean and small things, not very big things, like doing their bed, keeping the stuff in that place from where they take it, all those things. Like,
Okay, thank you. That is the end of part 1.
So this was Diksha's final score. She got 7 for fluency. So fluency and cohesion here, I think, was generally quite good. There were some parts that were kind of, one part didn't follow on to the next. There was some hesitation in some parts. But yeah, overall, her fluency was good. There was a little bit of repetition, but not too much. So I think she did very, very well here. The grammar score, well, there was a few misuses of verbs. So we had the difference between encourage and indicate. We had some problems with the prepositions at times as well. And most of the time here, we were just using kind of simple tenses. There was no effort to kind of use more advanced grammar tenses. That may have helped the score. The vocabulary was 7. Vocabulary use was good. Again, there was not much advanced vocabulary being used here, but most of the general vocabulary she used in the correct way. Pronunciation, the intonation of her voice was very good. She kept the interest of the listener. There were some trouble sounds, like the confusion between the V and W sounds. It kind of makes the L1 language more apparent there. There were also a few words that weren't clear exactly what she was saying here. But sentence stress was mostly good. I think sometimes she could maybe have taken a little break between sentences rather than running straight into the next idea. Sometimes taking a little pause at the end of a sentence is a nice pronunciation feature. It allows the listener to reset and get ready for the next idea. So I think overall, Diksha did really, really well in this test. Spoke fluently for most of the time. Her answers were mostly cohesive. There were some kind of grammar errors. Some of these could be put as grammar. Some of them could be seen as vocabulary errors. But yeah. And pronunciation was mostly clear, but there were some kind of troubled sounds. So overall, I think this is a good example. Diksha did a lot of things well. She expanded her answers well for the most part. Now, there were some occasions where she gave shorter answers, but for most of the time, she did try to expand. She was never giving one-word answers. She was speaking 2 or 3 or 4 sentences and developing her ideas. That was great. And I think overall, most of the problems are small. As I said before, there was only really one major problem in this test, and that was misunderstanding the question about extended family. So I think overall, very, very good from Diksha. Now, I'm going to leave the original video in the comments below. So if you want to check out the original video, click on the link. Please remember to like the video if you enjoyed this. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel and check out our social media, which is also shown in the link before. So thanks for watching, everyone, and I'll see you all in the next video.